Welcome to the Green Seattle Partnership Live Stake Training. Live staking is an inexpensive way to propagate plants at your site. This short video will provide you with all the information you need to live stake successfully.
When you have decided you want to live stake, find plants suitable for growing as live stakes. These plants tend to root easily and generally prefer wetter conditions. Willow species make some of the best live stakes. Our native species include Sitka willow, common along stream banks and other relatively open areas, Pacific willow, great for wetland and riparian areas, Hooker's willow, which does best when located within 5 miles of saltwater, and Geyer willow. Willows do very well on slopes. However, please remember in Seattle parks we do not allow volunteers to work on steep slopes, but you are welcome to live stake steep slopes on your own property, or if you can do so at a Green Seattle Partnership site without being on the slope itself. Black cottonwood is another species that has good success as live stakes at our sites. These trees prefer moist to wet conditions. Do keep in mind that these trees can reach over 100 feet high. Red osier dogwood is a Green Seattle Partnership favorite that does very well in swamps and stream sides, in addition to clearings, as they do well in full sun. Red osier dogwoods also do well on steep slopes. The next species we recommend to live stake is Pacific ninebark. This shrub does best in wet, relatively open locations. Snowberry is a staple in our Western Washington native forests and does well, tolerating a broader range of conditions than some other live stake species, including drier soils and steep slopes. Hardhack, also known as Douglas spirea, does well in many wet locations. Black twinberry is a species that are very easy to propagate from live stakes. Indian plum can be good to have in your live stake repertoire because they are a species that can be installed as live stakes in less wet areas. Once you have decided which species are best suited to live stake at your site, find the species you need. If you need help identifying plants during the winter months, search Winter Twig ID on greenseattle.org to find a helpful guide. Live stakes should be collected when plants are dormant, before bud break, which means late fall to early spring are the best times to collect and install your stakes. Stems collected should be between 3/8 to half an inch in diameter. You can have live stakes that are thicker, up to about 1.5 inches. They will just be harder to cut and install. Now it's time to gather your tools. You will need a hand pruner, lopper, or handsaw, depending on how thick your desired stems are. You will also need a bucket with water for short-term storage. Cutting live stakes is also an opportunity to prune older plants to help spark new growth. It's okay to take a couple of branches from well-established plants, but be sure you are not harming the plant by taking too many branches. Once you have selected your live stake collection plants, it's time to actually harvest your stakes. Cut as close to the ground as possible, or directly above a node when collecting your live stakes. After you've cut a branch, it's time to prune. Cut off all side stems and leaves. This will help prevent desiccation. Then, cut your branch into your individual live stakes. You will want each stake to be between 18 and 24 inches, with a minimum of 3 nodes. Be sure each cut occurs directly above a node. These cuts at the top should be flat. Finally, you'll want to cut the bottom of each stake at a diagonal. This will help you drive the stake into the ground and help you remember which side is down, as stakes installed upside down will not be successful. You have 2 options for storing your live stakes, depending on how quickly you plan to install them. If you plan on installing your stakes less than 2 weeks after your collection, store them in bundles of about 10 to 40 stakes in a bucket of water, all pointed down. Store this bucket in a shaded area. Be sure the stakes remain submerged in water the whole time they are stored. It is not recommended you wait longer than 2 weeks to install live stakes. However, you can plant stakes in a bucket or pot, allow them to root, and plant them after roots have established. To do this, Place a bundle of stakes in a pot filled with dirt, ensuring that there are at least 2 nodes underground. Roots will grow from these nodes. Be sure to water them and mulch if possible. Keep these potted stakes in a cool, moist, semi-shaded location. The red flowering currant stakes here grew in their pot for a year and are now ready to plant. In order to plant, separate individual plants from each other and plant as you would with other potted or bare root plants. Now it's time to install your stakes. Although each species has slightly different condition preferences, all live stakes need to be installed in relatively moist areas to ensure they do not dry out. These locations need to be wet into the growing season. Oftentimes, areas near wetlands or bodies of water are the best places to install live stakes. After you select your location, clear the ground where you would like the stake to be. If the ground is hard, it may be necessary to create a pilot hole using a length of rebar and a mallet. Drive your stake into the ground, or pre-made hole, with the angled end down. The stake should be about 1/2 to 2/3 underground. The deeper you can get your stake in, the better, as it will create more robust roots. It is important that there are at least 2 nodes underground and 1 node above ground. Ideally, there will be more nodes both above and below the soil. After your live stake is in the ground, stamp down the ground around the stake to eliminate air pockets in the soil. Plant with a spacing of about 18 to 36 inches on center, keeping in mind that some of your live stakes will not survive. If possible, check back on your plants in the summer to water and clear invasives encroaching on your stakes. It can also be helpful to take note of which species seem to be doing well at your site for future live staking ventures. Keep in mind that all of your live stakes will not be successful, but since this method is virtually free, a success rate of 50% or more is considered good. Now get out there and live stake. See you in the forest!